Hey guys, this is Seb from the Minus Unity. Our YouTube channel today is going to present a new series. The series is going to be called Coding for Noobs. And for all of you who don't know what coding is programming computers to make them do what you want effectively. So, I'm going to talk to you about today what is coding, how to set up your first program, the setup, and basically how to do coding and to get better at it. Okay, so to start, what is coding? Coding is effectively, as I said, programming computers to make them to do what you want. So everything you see on a computer has been coded at one point or another. Basically, what happens is all these apps, everything, this entire OS was coded from scratch to make one computer, which only very advanced users could actually use, into a simple OS which anybody can use. It's called automation, which basically is making one function that already exists much easier to use, and that's the basic principle OSs work on. So for example, normally, if you didn't have an OS, you'd have to go through a series of commands and codes just to launch a simple app like Mail. But with automation, you can launch the app like Mail just with one click. So now then, let me continue. Okay, there's effectively two different types of coding. Automation, which I've already got over, and making programs. Okay, so to make all of these functions, you have to go through a very, very complicated series of commands. I'm sorry people, but it is extremely complicated. And that is what basically we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so I know on a Mac how to do this basic setup. On a Windows, I'm not completely sure, but I know you use Visual Basic or something like that. Anyway, so on a Mac, what you've got to do is either go into the App Store and type in Xcode, and we'll just let that load a little bit, or go into Safari, Google, type in Apple Developer, click on this. Sorry, my internet's very slow, so it's not not gonna do it that well. Anyway, so go on to Apple Developer, then go into, where is it? Resources, I think it is. Or you can just, go into the Mac Dev Center. Sorry, don't go on Resources. And that should load. And download this, Xcode 4, the latest Xcode. Okay, so as you can see, I've already downloaded it, and I've got it open currently. Or you can just download it here. Okay, so the next thing you do is, after it's downloaded, and it should be a little bar by Launchpad, and once that's finished, basically you just access it. So let's click on it. And I've got a bunch of projects here that I've already done, but you're going to have to create a new project because you'll have nothing here. So don't worry about that. So create a new Xcode project. Okay, so click on OS X, and what we're going to be coding is we're going to be coding in a language called C++. And if you don't know C++, it's fine. I'm going to teach it to you guys. We'll teach the basics anyway. And it's a great language because it's one of the most powerful languages. It's used in a lot of businesses. I can't think of a single game on the retail to buy with the discs. So like FIFA or COD, that doesn't have some aspect of C++ in it. I guess it's not the easiest language to code in, but it's definitely the most powerful. And if you can learn C++ and you can learn it well, then most other languages come really easily to you. So therefore, it's like a really good language to learn. So what you want to do is, most people will probably click on Coca or Coca AppleScript. You don't want to use those. Coca AppleScript is for automation, so for making these. AppleScript you can learn elsewhere. I might make a series on it later. Coca, it's for making the proper actual applications, which we'll come on to later. But currently, we're just going to be using the command line tool because it's just going to be commands. Okay, so command line tool. Click on that. The next thing you want to do is type in your product. So let's call it my first program. Program in C++. Sorry. And then it'll already have you on this, just ignore this bit. and then you want to change the type. It will be on C, so you want to change it to C++, and that's fine. So click Next. And I'll say make a local Git repository for this project. So what you'll want to do is, as you can see here, I made this folder called X Projects, and that's where I store all the source code and all the applications under here for all my projects in Xcode that I make in Xcode. So I use my repository here. If it comes like this, what you can do is, if you can go onto Documents, and you can just save them here if you want to. But I personally like to have my own folder, which you can make, or which you don't have to, but it's just a thing. Okay, don't click that, it doesn't matter. Okay, Control. So my first project in Xcode. So this is will all seem very confusing to you, all this new stuff. And even if you know how to do coding, then you may find it quite difficult. Okay, so the first thing you do is see main CCP. You'll see that on a drop down. If there's no main CCP, then you have to open this folder called My First Program, or it will be called the title of this. And if there's none of that, then you have to do that first. So do that. Once you've done that, you should find a little file called My Main CC, and it'll have all this little code. You can leave the green stuff because that's just comments, which we'll come on to talk about later. But this, you've got to delete. Okay, so now we finally can start typing away and get up to our first Xcode project. So the first thing you've got to do is the include command. And this includes a basic thing called iOS stream, which is a library, which we'll go on to talk about later, maybe in future videos, which is basically just this thing that lets you do certain commands. Don't worry about it now, but basically you're just going to have to do a hashtag, which is the Alt button and 3 on a Mac, and then do include, sorry about that, include, and then iOS stream. So it's called include iOS stream. And already we've got one of these, and which is a little error. And it's very useful because what it does is it tells me if you've done an error. And I knew I'd done an error because what you've got to do is add these little, I don't know really what to call them, but they're kind of like mathematical symbols, like if it's bigger or if it's not bigger. And whenever you're including something, you've always got to have those around it, no matter what it is. That's quite an important thing, but you don't really have to worry about it. Okay, the next thing you've got to do is, I suggest to skip a line. I'm going to make my code kind of organized so it's easier to read. Okay, using the command namespace. This again, you don't really have to worry about std. I know it sounds a bit weird, but don't worry about this. It doesn't really matter. Okay, this is a bit you have to think about. Anyway, so the next bit you have to go into is called an integer. And this bit is integer main. And this is basically telling you this is the main part of the code you're going to be asking about. This is the main bit of the code. And this main bit of the code is really important, so you've always got to do that. And then, so to show what the main bit of the code is, you're going to have these little tags. They're called, I can't remember what they're called braces, that's it. And basically what they do is anything you type in between is part of the integer main. And we're only going to be using the integer main, so it's fine. Okay, so once you've got all of this set up, I think it's quite nice on the Xcode when you do one tag, it automatically makes another tag for you. Okay, so now we're going to type in. And you want to hit tab, which will move your little thing across, or if it's already like that, it's fine, because that's just an easier way of writing code, and make sure you don't get any confusion. Okay, so the first command you're going to learn, and the first command you're going to use, is called cout, and it's pronounced cout, and it spells count, effectively. And so it's going to already have come up with some errors for me, but it doesn't matter. Okay, then so cout, it's basically, if you've used AppleScript or Java before, it's the display dialog kind of thing. It shows your dialog. So it shows what you write. So we do cout, then we do 2 of those little hashtag things. Sorry, that way. And then what we do is you just put speech marks, type in hello world or whatever you want to. I just like hello world because that is always your first program. Go to the end, and then you want to do this. And this little sign, a semicolon, I think it's called, is basically, marks the end of every, function. So cout, the computer can't tell if cout is ended yet unless you put this little tag here, and that basically tells the computer, oh, this command is over. Okay, so now what you want to do is, let's just move that back there. You'll want to run the program. So we'll hit run. And it'll compile, and it'll say build succeeded, hopefully. If it says build failed, you've done something wrong. And then a little output will come, and it'll say hello world. And that is because we've told the computer just to say and write hello world as a dialogue. Okay, so you can save that in the file and all of that. You guys should hopefully know all that. And then, basically, that is your first program, and a very good program too. So we're going to become more complicated. I understand that this isn't very complicated, but it's just to give you a little taste of C++, to ask, is this for me or is it not for me? If it is for you, don't forget to be here for the next video, which I'm going to release hopefully soon.